Chapter 22, No More Solitude. Life was busy for Seiju junior high students, especially Sakura's grade. Along with schoolwork, after-school music and sports practices, the star-crossed musical rehearsals, they also had to prepare for the spring carnival. This year, we would be a little unique, Terada-sensei said. We're going to hold something like a circus carnival. Magicians, acrobats, clowns. Plus, we are raising money for the children's hospital. Therefore, this is a very important cause. I hope that everyone would be willing to help and participate to their fullest potential. It's going to be hard work. I know, since it overlaps with so many other things such as the musical, but I know our grade can pull it through fine. There was another buzz of excitement through the class. It seemed that these days, nothing was calm and organized. Everyone eagerly looked at the slip of paper that their teacher was handing out, telling each of their roles. "Hoi, I'm an acrobat," Sakura said, staring at a slip of paper that their teacher gave her. "So am I," Melanie said. "I'm sure you two will put together something marvelous," Nako said. Sakura and Melanie were one of the best gymnasts in their school. "I'm just a popcorn seller. I'm glad, though. No extra stress. You know I'm awful at PE. "What is this? I don't want to be a magician," Syaoran said. "Do you want to switch with me?" Takashi asked brightly, holding his paper up. "What are you?" "A clown." Everyone laughed. Chiharu commented, "Fits you perfectly." "Well, what are you?" Takashi asked. Slowly, Chiharu unfolded her slip of paper. "A clown?" There was more giggling. "Are you a magician too? How romantic!" Arika exclaimed, peering over Syaoran's shoulder. "Do you know any tricks? I think Eron got the magician part also. I'm a ringmaster." Soon they found out that Eron, Syaoran, and Tomaki, whom everyone called Aki-kun for short, were chosen to be magicians, possibly one of the challenging yet interesting roles in the circus. They had to learn sleight of hand, coordinate with pigeons, cards, flowers, and numerous tricks to amuse the audience. In a look that asked, "You mean I have to work with him?" Syaoran dropped his head down. It was enough trouble facing Eron during class time, soccer practice, and musical rehearsals. Great, even the spring circus carnival. Even though it was hard work for everyone, the circus kept everyone amused during the tedious school day, especially since many girls were jittery before White Day, wondering if the boy of their dreams would give them a white rose. To practice, Sakura and Melanie pranced down the hallways, turning cartwheels and flips to the awe of many not-so-athletic students. Takashi amused everyone with his arduous training as a clown by picking up a pencil, eraser, ruler, calculator, and pencil sharpener to juggle them and catch them deftly in one hand. For the first time in his life, he had to actually practice tediously and patiently at something, refusing to give up. This time, he couldn't slip away with his wicked tongue. However, Chiharu struggled to juggle even two objects. Meanwhile, Eron charmed all the girls with his smooth little tricks. "Didn't you wash your ear today?" he asked, pulling a coin out of Tomeo's ear. Eron was best with flower tricks, and many girls flipped head over heels when he produced a rose out of apparently nowhere. At this, Syaoran scowled, staring at a pile of magic trick books on his table. He refused to look at them because he believed that the magicians just use illusions and trickery. "Wow, Eron-kun, that's marvelous!" Sakura held a fragrant white rose in rapture, which Eron had pulled apparently out of her hair. "Oh, how pretty!" Rubbing his chin, Syaoran thought, then again, maybe I better start learning those tricks also. "Do you really think she would like these?" Syaoran asked eagerly, holding up a box of lemon drop candies wrapped in silver white paper. "Yes," Melanie replied for the 10th time. Sometimes Syaoran was like a little boy. They were shopping for White Day presents for their friends. "While you're at it, get a white rose." "Why? I like peonies better." "Believe me, you want to." Melanie sighed. Syaoran still didn't figure out the school tradition. Then a dark frown appeared on Syaoran's face. He remembered how Sakura had given Eron the chocolates on Valentine's Day. Hey, Lee-kun, are you getting presents too? Takashi asked. He was holding a large box with ribbons in his hands. Yeah. Who'd you get that for? Chiharu. Smiling, Takashi said, we had a little argument, and she's not talking to me right now, but Kinomoto-san told me it's nice to know that you have a friend that appreciates you, and that gifts there to give you security and gratitude. I argue with Chiharu all the time, but I think that's the fun of it, making up later on. Sakura told you that? White Day. At this rate, Kiro-chan's going to turn into a pig, Sakura exclaimed. With sweets from Valentine's Day and White Day as well, Kiro-chan would be able to eat non-stop for several months. There was a slight disappointment stirring inside since she hadn't seen someone the whole day. Well, as long as he's still able to fly, Tameya said, sorting out her boxes of candy. Sakura-chan, did you see the school newspaper? Chiharu exclaimed as she entered class. She was holding their school newspaper up for them to see. Look at this picture. Tameyo peered at it. Valentine's Day and White Day school tradition. Students enjoy exchanging sweets and the roses in a sign of liking. She gasped at the black and white picture with the article. It was Syaoran handing a bouquet of white roses to Erika. Sakura's mouth dropped. What do you mean by giving those roses to Erika? Meilin shouted later on, ready to strangle Syaoran. Syaoran stared back at her blankly, as if she'd gone mad. What roses? Meilin held out the school newspaper. This! There's no use in denying. I have proof. Look at what's in our newspaper. Carefully, he studied the picture. He looked greatly puzzled. Then he said, Oh, that. What do you mean by, oh, that? Shaking his head, Syaoran said, this guy I know from soccer asked me to give them to Erika, so I gave it to her, saying it's from that guy. I guess the school newspaper crew took a photo at that moment. I didn't know. You mean you don't like Erika? Meilin's mouth dropped, her amber reddish eyes round. Why would I like her? The puzzled look on Syaoran's face made Meilin's sweat drop. Oh, by the way, did you see Sakura? Still couldn't find her to give her the candy and roses. Absent-mindedly, Syaoran walked away, staring blissfully into the white, small rosebuds. Oh no, groaned Meilin. Then Syaoran glimpsed someone with a white ribbon tying her braided golden brown hair. He tried to call out her name, but someone else did first. Sakura-san, there you are. Edon proceeded and walking beside Sakura. Did you receive many gifts today? Smiling sadly, Sakura said, Well, not from... I know, I haven't given you a present yet. Edon playfully drew out a white stuffed bunny, which was holding onto a basket of candies, and handed it to Sakura. For me? Thank you, this is so cute. But, don't thank me. I just remembered you like bunnies. Plus, I don't like seeing you with a sad face, Sakura. I want you to smile for me. Just for me. As she clutched onto the soft doll, the bittersweet fragrance of the white roses tied around the bunny's neck reached to her nose. What did the rose mean? Then, a disappointment swelled inside her as the day slipped away with no signs of Syaoran. Edon was sweet, but Syaoran was Syaoran. Did you give it to her? Meilin asked, sitting beside Syaoran in the bench at King Penguin Park. Give what? Syaoran was intently carving a wooden block with his pocket knife. Wood shavings were scattered at his feet. I guess you didn't. Ugh, Meilin sighed, fingering the edges of her black hair. What are you making? Don't know. Wincing as he sliced his finger, Syaoran asked, Why'd you follow me here? Just. Did you see that doll that Edon gave Sakura? Yeah, it was nice. Oh, you saw it, so you don't mind. Why would I mind? Is it any of my business? You're so blunt, Lee Syaoran. Sorry, but I can't help it. But Malin didn't escape noticing Syaoran's hands tremble just the slightest bit, as if holding on to a sigh, which would blow days, weeks, and months away. Good evening! Sakura laid out the table setting for dinner, since it was her duty. There was a pretty view from the Kinomoto's kitchen of the blooming sakura blossoms outside, illuminated in the early dusky evening sky. Already spring was coming. In the flurry of school, musical rehearsals, after-school sports practice, and preparation for the spring circus carnival, she hadn't noticed how the days had passed by. Setting down bowls of fluffy white rice, Sakura said, "Oni-chan, don't you take my fried shrimps today? They're my favorite." In his teasing tone, Toya tossed a brownish coal-black hair and commented, "Considering I'm going to be gone for a semester, you should be nicer to your older brother." "I'll be glad when you're gone." Then Sakura glanced down. Oh yeah. For several months now, Toya had been preparing to spend a semester away from Japan, in England. Yukito-san and Toya had been considering the college exchange program for a while now. Till today, Sakura hadn't realized that they were really serious about it. Of course, Fujata had reluctantly given permission because he felt studying abroad would be a good experience for Toya. After all, it was only for a few months. Folding her arms, she asked, "Well, when are you going then?" "In 2 weeks." 2 weeks? Sakura's eyes popped out. It was so much sooner than she expected. "Why, Kaiju? It's not early enough for you? Don't tell me you're disappointed." No, it's just rather sudden. I thought you'd give at least a month's warning." "Well, I've been preparing for several months now with Yuki." Oh, why do I feel so disappointed? It's not as if this is something sudden. I wonder why Father's not home yet. He seemed really excited about something this morning. As if on cue, Fujata entered the house. "Good evening, Toya-san, Sakura-san." He smiled at the pictured Nadesico, dressed in a fluttering lavender dress with flower petals blowing around her on the kitchen counter. "You seem happy about something, Father," Toya commented, pouring cool iced tea for everyone. "Ah, actually," Fujata adjusted his glasses, then began. "Well, I received a really honored position at Seiju University Board, and I was voted as a representative to lecture in universities throughout Japan. It's a really important job, and I'll be visiting and talking to schools all over Japan for a semester." "That's great!" his children exclaimed. It was evident that Fujata was excited at such a great opportunity. It was always his dream to lecture all over the world. This was a great chance. "So when are you going?" Toya asked. "In around 2 weeks." 2 weeks? Echoed Toya and Sakura. "Yes. Is there a problem?" Fujata looked up curiously. "No, it's just," Toya stammered. "Never mind. I can postpone it. This is more important." Then Fujata remembered. "Oh, you were spending a semester away in London. How could I forget? Never mind me. Go on your trip. You spent months working hard to prepare. There are many university professors willing to take my place." No, you can't go on a lecturing tour. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I can always postpone spending a semester away," Toya reassured. Patting her foot impatiently, Sakura stated, "Wait, I don't see what the problem is. Both of you can go on your trips." "But you'll be all by yourself, Kaiju, at home. We can't just leave you," Toya protested. Holding her head up high, Sakura replied, "I'm 15 now. I'm a young adult, and I will be in high school next year. I can manage on my own fine. I've been taking care of the family for years now. I'm the lady of the family. So have fun and don't worry about me." "But," Fujata stroked his chin, staring critically and proudly at his mature daughter. It seemed so little ago when she was a baby in her crib and Nadesico reading a bedtime story to her. "I can stay over at Tomeo's, plus we have plenty of neighbors. I'll be fine on my own." Ruffling Sakura's hair and turning to his father, Toya commented, "Well, she has us, doesn't she? I'll worry, but if it's the monster, she'll be fine." Fujata nodded, and Sakura smiled, giving a three-way hug to her family. As she buried her nose into her father's crisp shirt, she wondered what it would be like without her father and brother. She didn't want to even think how lonely she'd be. That's a rather big commitment, staying home alone. How'd your brother even agree to it? Kiro-chan asked, digging into a bag of chips. Yue gazed at him disdainfully. Sakura had been surprised when Yukito had come over to the house that day when Toya was out. It turned out that Yue had something important to say to her. Shrugging, Sakura said, maybe he finally realizes that I'm responsible enough. Frowning, Kiro-chan said, well, if I were him, I would be worrying hard too. Who's going to look after you, the brat? I don't think so. I don't need anyone looking after me. Oh, that's why I worry even more. Kiro-chan folded his arms, flapping his wings. Even I won't be here to watch out for you. Nor Yue. In shock, she asked, why? Are you going somewhere too? Oh, well, Yue and I agreed that we might be able to find something more about the past in London. It's pretty peaceful here, and you and the brat can handle most things fine. In England, Iro, Mizuki-sensei, and Miho agreed to join with us to decipher some of the sense out of the current situation. The sooner we get going, the faster we can all return to our normal lives. For a second, Kiro-chan paused and crossed his arms. So, I'm going to London with Yukito. What? Sakura rolled out of her bed. Events were passing by in a flurry. She had at least been counting on the company of her stuffed doll friend. Now, even Kiro-chan would be gone. It won't be for long. I'll return as soon as I find something important, Kiro-chan reassured. Also, we'll be trying to find a cure for Miho's mother, Miyara Tanaka. We all trust you, Sakura-chan. Do your job as the card mistress. Watch out for strangers and always be wary, Yue commented. Then he turned his head arrogantly, as if embarrassed to show any concern. Okay. Sakura gazed at Yue's silvery violet eyes gratefully. Then squeezing Kiro-chan in a tight hug, Sakura said, okay, you can trust me here. I'll manage fine by myself. You must come home soon, though. Hey, I can't breathe! Ota-san, do you need help packing? Sakura stood by the doorway in the morning 2 weeks later, holding a picture of her mother. No, Sakura-san. I'm finished with last-minute packing. Is your brother finished? I'm taking him and Yukito-san to the airport. Yes. Handing the picture over, Sakura said, here. Then she frowned. The lacy Victorian-style white dress that Nadeshiko was wearing looked like the one she'd worn in the picture with Lee Ryuren, the one Syaoran found in Sheen's album in New York, the one that looked like a wedding dress. On her fourth finger was a star sapphire ring, and she was holding a lawn-stemmed lily. Taking the picture, Fujata kissed the glossy surface and slipped it into his briefcase. You loved Mother very much. Does he know about her past? Slowly smiling, ruefully, Fujata said, and I still love her with all my heart. A slow twang rippled in her, and Sakura asked, was she your first and only love? At first, Fujata stared at Sakura with surprise at the depth of her questions. Then he replied after a while, no, she wasn't. For a while, Sakura was dumbfounded in ways she couldn't imagine Nadeshiko and Fujata in any other way of life, yet there was Lee Ryuren. Thinking about it, there was so little she knew about her father or her mother. Playing with her luck, Sakura commented innocently, wow, that dress Mother's wearing in that picture looks like a wedding dress. How pretty. She looks around my age in this picture. When was it? This? Oh, I remember. She was in a major school production. I can't remember what it's called. School production. Mother? At this, she was shocked. Amazing, isn't it? She always told me she had the worst case of stage fright and clumsiness, yet she pulled through fine in the end as the beautiful protagonist. Too bad I couldn't see it, but it was before I was teaching in this neighborhood. Oh, did you know Mother really well when you first met? In a mysterious way, he replied, I didn't know much about her. The only thing I can say is I understood her. Maybe that doesn't count much, but I always knew she was the one meant for me. There was an inner warmth in his deep voice. Quietly, Sakura asked, Were you her first and only love then? Once more, Fujata looked startled. Then smiling, he replied, No, I wasn't her only one. Ever since I first met her, she had already lost all her girlish love, gone through heartache and hardships. We weren't each other's first love. She knew nothing about my past and me, nothing about hers. Both our childhood loves were long gone by, yet all we knew is that we gave our full, mature adult love to each other, and we were fully content with that. When she married me, she had already told me that she would only have approximately 10 years together. It was fine with me because they were the most beautiful years of my life. You knew that she would die early, and you still married her. Overwhelmed by everything that her father had told her, Sakura gulped. So many things she didn't know about her father. Really, what kind of a man was beneath his perfectly controlled exterior? Was there sorrow or rue in knowing he hadn't been his wife's only love? Confusion about the past? Or a peaceful serenity to leave behind what's gone and live in the present? My brother would be on a plane, and my father would be on a train by now. Sakura walked over to a large oak tree on the school campus during break. Under the shadow, someone was carving away at something with a sharp knife. The movement of the person's sinuous, long fingers were brisk, yet graceful, as the wood sharpings gathered on his uniform pants. On one side was tossed various little miniature wood carvings of animals such as birds, dogs, and cats. However, they looked hastily done and unfinished. He was too busy to brush them off, as he was working on something else. What are you making? Sakura asked, leaning over the tree trunk. Jumping, Syaoran stammered, Nothing. Unsuccessfully, Syaoran attempted to cover up the mess and shoved the thing he was making under his bag. Once more, Sakura sighed. It seemed as if, ever since the White Day incident, he'd been avoiding her. She considered telling Syaoran that Kiro-chan and Yue went to England to do some background research, but decided against it. Or maybe she was jealous? Jealous of what? Of who? Chain Arika. With overcast emerald eyes, Sakura stared at Syaoran. Did he really like Arika? After all, Arika was pretty, funny, popular, and Syaoran spent a lot of time with her because they both were the leading roles in the musical. After a while, Syaoran looked up from his work and asked, Sakura? Then he tilted his head. She was there a second ago. Bad timing is the problem, Tomei told Mei-Lin, who flopped back on the couch, referring to the occurrences lately. The old crew had gathered after school just for the sake of it. Tomeo's room was large and roomy, much to Mei-Lin's satisfaction. Tomei was busily adding touches to Sakura's new battle outfit. I've come to a conclusion, Mei-Lin stated firmly. Syaoran has a split personality. That must be it. Everyone sweat dropped. If Kiro-chan was there, he would have commented, I always knew that brat was a psycho. Maybe you're right, Sakura said, crossing her legs and browsing through a magazine. It seemed strange to think that at home there was no one in. Her father, brother, Yukito-san, and Kiro-chan all left that morning. She hadn't told anyone about being home alone yet. She could tell them later. She would ask Tomeo if she could stay at her house for a few weeks. Split personality. Maybe that's why Syaoran always hits hot and cold, seems so nice, then so distant. No one had told her about the school newspaper misunderstanding yet. Mei Lin bit her lips. She knew more than Sakura, yet she didn't want to tell that girl. Sakura was the main opponent between her and Syaoran. Now she realized that it was impossible to hate Sakura, yet she still held the tiniest grudge, except Syaoran had been acting so strange lately. Who has a split personality? Syaoran asked, entering Tomeo's living room. Everyone stared at him with stony eyes. Baffled and pointing at himself, Syaoran stammered, Me? Why? Saving Syaoran from further pressing, Sakura exclaimed, Oh yeah, you know what? That picture you found in Shin-san's album? Syaoran nodded. He kept it in a drawer in his bedroom. Probably it was the only picture he had of his father. I think I know what it is. You do? Syaoran bolted up, his heart racing. Is it? No. Sakura shook her head furiously. How awful to jump into conclusions. Thank God it wasn't what they had suspected it to be. No, it was when my mother was in her school production, and that white dress was her costume for it. School production. At that moment, Sonomi Daidoji, Tomeo's mother, had entered the room with a plate full of cookies. I remember how Nadeska-chan was adorable as the lead female character. When she was on stage, she charmed the audience just like that, with her angelic smile. On a side note, she added, that is, when she didn't trip over the props or forget her lines, yet she was really a marvel, the grandest production ever in our generation, where the whole of Tomeda neighborhood participated. I was her personal manager. Wow! She played the main role? Tomeo turned star-eyed. Who played the main male role, Mother? Oh, I don't remember. I just remember how lovely Nadeska looked in that pretty white dress she wore. Sonami looked raptured. At that moment, her hand phone rang. Oh, darn it. Just when I was trying to, flicking out her elite hand phone, she said, Hello, Daidoji Sonami speaking. What? Daidoji-san! Nodding her head in excuse, she walked off to her private bedroom, her eyes wide in shock. Daidoji-san. Sakura glanced at Tomeo's shocked blue-violet eyes. Till today, she had never stopped to think about Tomeo's family. Of course, there was Sonomi, Tomeo's mother, yet had she ever wondered about where her best friend's father was? Maybe Sakura had assumed that he was dead. Like, her mother was dead, but maybe Daidoji-san was alive, living elsewhere without his wife and daughter. Why? It wasn't really any of her business, but still, Tomeo was a precious best friend to her. Quietly, Sakura, Mei Lin, and Syaoran excused themselves, wishing to leave Tomeo in peace, who seemed rather distant. When everyone left, Tomeo went to her drawer and dug out a picture frame from the bottom of a pile of clothes. Her hands shook as she could hear her mother screaming into the phone from the next-door room. Slowly, she ran her white finger across the cold glass of the frame, over a smiling man standing next to a tall woman with a stylish short haircut. Then the dark-haired man was holding a small, laughing child on his shoulder. A slow tear plopped onto the photo. Oh, does that? What? You're staying home alone? Mei Lin was aghast when she learned the news as they walked home from Tomeo's house. Even the stuffed animal's gone. How lonely you must be by yourself. Sakura sweat dropped. They only left this morning. Plus, Oni-chan would never leave off with his lecture. You should see the list of emergency phone call numbers and duties he left for me. Ito contacted, saying he'll look after Kiro-chan and Yue. Of course, Yue would be no problem, but I worry about Kiro-chan. I hope he doesn't get sidetracked there and sticks to work. It's finally a chance to work out the past, though. Ito-kun has been on track to find out the hidden 5-Force legend with Mizuki-sensei. Wow, but all by yourself? My mother wouldn't let me stay here in Japan if Syaoran wasn't here. Actually, I told Oni-chan that Tomeo wouldn't mind having me stay with her for a month or two while they were away. Casting her eyes down, Sakura said, but I'm not too sure now. I don't want to bother the daidojis or anything with my problems. Yeah, I don't exactly understand what happened today, but it sounded pretty serious. Tomeo's father. Melin slipped her arm into Syaoran's and said to Sakura, well, if you have problems, contact us, okay? Okay, thanks. Don't go out at nighttime either, Syaoran added after a while. And keep your doors and windows locked. Hey, isn't your way over there? Sakura asked, pointing to a road that they passed by. Ein, Syaoran, Melin replied. We'll take the long way home and drop you off at your house, so that Syaoran will have peace in heart without worrying whether you got home safely. Laughing, Sakura replied, I've walked this road 1,000,000 times. I can go home by myself. No, no, Melin's right. It's no problem going this way, Syaoran interrupted. As they walked up to her house, Sakura waved goodbye. Bye! At the last second, Syaoran added, Bye! Sakura smiled and shouted, Good night, Syaoran-kun, Melin-chan. Thanks for walking me home. Are you? Melin asked as she washed the dishes at their home. Am I what? Syaoran asked, wiping a plate, rather subdued and quiet. He seemed deeply intent. Thinking. A split personality. What gave you that idea? Syaoran jumped, almost dropping a cup. Well, there's this really nice, warm, caring side of you. And then there is this cold, don't bother me, icy self. It seems like you're struggling with two minds, each telling you to do something different. And maybe you don't know it, but you are breaking under the strain. Each word seemed to jolt some familiar pain into Syaoran. He sank down onto a chair, burying his sweaty head into his palms. Has it to do with Sakura? Are you trying to hide something from her? Denying yourself the truth? What are you getting at, Lee Syaoran? I don't know. I don't want to live this way anymore. His voice was scratchy, barely above a whisper. I'm living my life blind. That night, Lee Mei-lin lay awake in her bed, staring up at the ceiling. I just don't want to live this way anymore. Sitting up from her bed, she slid her feet into her warm slippers, walking up to her dressing table. With trembling hands, she reached for a brush in the stark dark. From a dim light in the room across the hallway, she could tell that Syaoran wasn't sleeping. Why did she like him so much? No matter how many times she tried to stop, she knew it was impossible. Yet she wanted to stop. She knew that he would never think of her of anything more than his cousin and friend. Only if she knew what he was thinking in the depths of his heart. There was a shadowed, haunted look in Syaoran's eyes in the darkest of nights when he thought no one was looking. What internal struggle was he going under? Strange. Did she hear something outside? Tentatively, Mei-lin walked out of her apartment. A rustling at the side of her head sounded. Quickly, she took a Chinese martial arts stance. With the speed of lightning, a colorful streak wove around her. Stumbling, Mei-lin stepped back. Who's there? She called out in the chilly night air. Out of midair, a white, painted clown face with a tricolor three-cornered jester's hat emerged, grinning. Mei-lin! Mei-lin, wake up! Are you all right? Blinking several times, Mei-lin gazed up into the warm, amber-brown eyes. Syaoran? Thank God you're all right! What happened? I felt some strange power outside and I found you lying on the sidewalk. Tucking Mei-lin into her own warm, cozy bed, Syaoran brought in a steaming mug of hot tea. As he was about to leave, Malin reached out. "Don't leave me. Stay with me." She drank the sweet, soothing tea. Raising his dark brown eyebrow, Syaoran answered, "Sure, if you want me to." "Is there another power out there?" "Yes." "You better tell Sakura then." "I guess." "Admit it." "Admit what?" "You're worried out of your wits about Sakura, aren't you?" Who says I am?" Syaoran stammered. "It's written all over your face." Sitting up, Malin said, "Well, I don't blame you. It's not exactly safe for a young girl to be home all alone in an empty house and—" "Stop it." Syaoran sighed. He stared at the photograph of his father and Nadeshiko-san. They were smiling blissfully. "Malin." "What?" "Go back to Hong Kong. Go back home." Angrily, Malin stood up. "What are you talking about? This is my home now. I'm not going back to Hong Kong, and that's final. Is it because you think I'm no help and I always get in the way? Well, I'll prove to you that I can help." "It's not like that." Syaoran stared into Malin's bright, ruby, amber eyes. "Please go back to Hong Kong. You'll be safer there. It's the best for you. Of course I like having you here, but I'm scared, Malin. I have no control over myself and what happens around me. I feel like I'm living in a maze and I'm running through a haze, a nasty illusion. Every day I wonder if I'm only a puppet, controlled by a greater force. I wonder what I'm here for. What was I born to this world for?" "Stop talking like that, Syaoran. You don't know what you're talking about." Malin stared at him with tears rolling down her cheek. "I'm staying, and that's final." Patting Malin's back, he whispered, "I'm sorry. You can do whatever you want. I don't blame you for not understanding me. I don't understand myself completely. I just don't want someone innocent to be in danger. That's all." "Tell me, Syaoran, what are you scared of?" Hesitating, Syaoran looked away. Hoarsely, he replied, "The truth. I'm scared about the real reason and motive behind all this crazy hallucinations. After I found my father's burnt diary, I wondered what happened between him and Nadeshiko-san. What happened so bad enough that he gave up everything and returned back to Hong Kong. I've spent nights researching and trying to decipher his old documents, and I learned that the Dark Ones told him a terrible secret. They showed him the truth, the actual truth, something dreadful enough for him to give up his love and break all ties with Nadeshiko-san. And the dreadful thing was, he knew what had to be done, because there was the reality of life. That was the fate of his destiny." Sinking back onto the bed, Malin said, "God, is that why—" She was unable to continue. "So does he have some feelings for Sakura after all? Is he afraid to do anything because he's afraid he'll hurt her? Just like Ryurin hurt Nadeshiko? Was that why he was acting so strangely for the past months? Does Sakura know all about this too?" "Well, she's smart enough to figure out that something happened back then. Even I don't know exactly." Syaoran leaned against the wall in Malin's room. Suddenly, he felt a great burden lifted from his shoulders to actually be able to talk to someone about his worries. "Sorry I'm telling you about all this. I didn't mean to stress you." "No, I'm glad you told me. I think I can understand your actions better now. You're only a teenage boy. You should be able to live like one." Clumsily, Sakura drew a 5-pointed star beneath the words printed, "The 5 Force Magicians," in her notebook. At one edge she wrote Amiya, her mother's bloodline. On the next one she wrote Lee, Syaoran and his father's ancestry. Then she wrote reed, the English bloodline of the Clow reed. For the fourth point, she scribbled the mysterious dark ones. Biting the tip of her pen, she placed a question mark next to the last point of the star. Who was the last of the 5 original great ones? Staying home alone was 10 times worse than she had imagined. Often she lay awake in the night, afraid to go to sleep alone. Getting up for school in the mornings was a nightmare. Cleaning the house, washing the dishes, keeping track of daily household chores and affairs, and keeping up with the school all on her own was monstrous. Plus, she had the many worries as a card mistress. "Sakura-chan, hurry! You're going to be late for the meeting for the circus carnival," Chiharu called out. "Coming!" Folding her notebook, Sakura walked outside to the field. Her stomach rumbled. Thinking about it, she had starved since yesterday's lunch. When she returned home, she'd been too tired to make dinner, especially since it was just herself, not for her brother or father, and that morning she woke up late again and was tardy for class. Many students were practicing their stunts for the carnival. Brightly, she spotted someone. "Tomeo-chan!" "Hello!" Though Tomeo looked slightly paler than usual, the dark circles under her eyes still managed to smile. Concerned, Sakura asked, "Are you okay? I was worried." "I'm fine. My father..." Tomeo's voice broke off, then she continued. "My father wanted to take me back to his house in Tokyo, but I didn't want to go. Mother wouldn't have let me. Anyway." Oh, Sakura felt she was useless to her friend. I'm sorry, Tomeo-chan." "Why?" "Because when I'm in trouble, you can always help me. But now that you have worries, I am not much help." "No, you're wrong. I feel much better just talking to you. Come, let's make you a pretty outfit to wear for the circus with lots of sequins and layers of sashes." Oi. No matter what troubles and hardships Tomeo went under, she was always strong and bright. She wanted to be like that too. Then furrowing her eyebrows, Sakura swerved around, just in time to hear a student's shriek. A girl in class 3-3 slipped from the parallel bars and fell heavily onto her side. The girl had been trained in gymnastics since she was 6, so this was rather queer. An itchy sense of an aura flew through Sakura, and she could clearly see a gangly-looking force that looked like a clown with 3/4 Joker's hat. It had coated the parallel bars with oil, so the girl had slipped. The next few consecutive days, there were more accidents during the preparations for Seiju Junior High Circus. In the most recent and serious accident, a boy had been carried on an ambulance to the hospital with a broken arm. "I've got to stop that force. It's completely ruining everything for us and harming innocent students." Sakura slammed her fist down onto her desk. "I'm doing it tonight." "Tonight?" Malin asked. At that moment, Takashi walked up to them and interrupted. "Just a friendly advice. I don't advise going out at nighttime, especially these days." "Why, Yamazaki-kun?" Sakura questioned, preparing for another long story. "Because of the Kaido magician." "Kaido magician?" Sakura looked puzzled at Chiharu, wondering if it was another one of Takashi's lies. Instead, Chiharu replied, "You mean you didn't hear about the Kaido magician, the thief of the night, the magician of the dark?" "Oi, I've been too busy to watch the news these days." Nako added, "Everyone knows about the phenomenal Kaido magician. He's on the news internationally. See, he was in the papers just this morning for stealing a priceless 14-karat diamond necklace from the museum." She held out the morning's newspaper. "He was almost caught in New York, but escaped because, and before, he was seen in Europe. They call him a magician because he slips away unnoticed and appears like a magician, full of charisma and elegance." everything planned his way. Whatever he steals, everything always goes to his plan, and no one can ever catch him, not even the most famous detectives. Plus, no one understands the Kaido schemes. A genius he must be. Soon, all the girls could ever talk about was Kaido Magician, and who had been causing ruckus in Tokyo recently, and was headline news. All this fuss over a thief? Syaoran asked in disbelief as Melanie clasped her hands romantically. He's handsome and mysterious, Melanie retorted. Have you ever seen him? No, but look at the picture in the newspaper. A black silhouette of a black young man with a cape flowing from his back was captured in a blur. So dashing and romantic, Chiharu agreed. He's a thief, Sakura pointed out. Then she shivered. She didn't like the idea of being home alone with a force out there, as well as a thief. Dressed in her gym clothes, she started stretching for her routine with Mei Lin. They really matched each other in skill, and they were practicing hard for the circus. She didn't like the way that Erika pranced around, saying that since she was the ringmaster, she was in charge. Carefully, she turned a cartwheel on the balancing beam. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Syaoran punch Syaoran while they were practicing some card magic. Syaoran kept on dropping the card from a sleeve, and Syaoran laughed at him. Great, Syaoran finally lost his temper. Then she turned quick consecutive backflips, feeling the familiar firmness of her arms. From her upside-down positions, she saw a grinning clown face of a joker peering at her. Watching in slow motion, Melanie saw Sakura's unbalance and called out, Sakura-chan, watch out! It was too late. On the last turn, Sakura felt her left arm slip from the first beam, and she jumped down from the beam. Her right leg landed in an awkward angle and buckled under her weight. Wincing in pain, she crumpled to the mattress, grasping her right ankle. Immediately, a crowd of her friends gathered around her. Pushing Syaoran to get to Sakura first, Syaoran immediately knelt beside her and asked, Are you okay? Should I carry you to the nurse? Gritting her teeth and standing up, Sakura replied, I'm all right. Just a little fall. She knew that if she was sent to the nurse, she would have to lie down and have her foot bandaged. She would never be able to catch the force that night. Gratefully, she leaned against Syaoran, who supported her up with his strong arms. Laughing lightly to cheer up her worried friends after all the accidents that occurred recently, she stated, How clumsy of me to fall off the balancing beam again. Not that she'd ever fallen off before. Then she noticed that Syaoran stared at her, off from the corner. Slowly, he shook his head. He saw through her pretense. If there was one person she couldn't hide from, it was Syaoran, and he seemed to know her better than anyone else. That evening. Are you sure you want to stay? I can catch the force by myself, Sakura said to Tomeo as they sat by their school steps that night, waiting for the Joker to appear once more. Are you kidding? And miss out on an opportunity to record you for so long? Too bad I couldn't bring a better battle outfit. With starry eyes, Tomeo clutched her video camera in rapture. Sakura was dressed in a short-sleeved light green chiffon dress with a skirt, which floated around her like a cloud. A ribbon of the same material was tied around her head and accentuated her eye color. Luckily, these days, Tomeo seemed to have developed her style more and drew more into the simple but pretty designs. Oh yeah, is your ankle okay? I heard you sprained it during practice. It was nothing. Sakura shrugged it off. With trembling fingers, she was clasping onto her crystal necklace, revealed by the scoop of the neckline of her dress. Whenever she held it with her hand, it radiated a warm, soothing feeling in her, making her feel calmer. Was it because he had given it to her? Yet she couldn't hide from Tomeo that she was undergoing great pain and throbbing as her ankle swelled underneath her boots. Cool perspiration formed as she gritted her teeth from moaning. If I was home, Oto-san would tuck me in bed, and Oni-chan would make me warm honey milk. No No one's home now, and I'm not going to bother Tomeo with my troubles either. She has enough of her own. Poor Tomeo-chan. She looks thinner and less energetic than usual. After all, her own father. Wait, did you hear a noise? Sakura tried to stand up, then she felt her knees buckle again. Her right leg was so stiff she could hardly move it. When is it coming? We've been here for ages, Malin complained in her loud, nagging voice as she came to the spot that Sakura and Tomeo were standing at. Both Syaoran and she were wearing their Chinese battle outfit apparels. You shouldn't have followed, Syaoran replied, fiddling with his lazing board. I don't think it's going to come out tonight. You girls should just go home. I'll stay and watch out just in case. No, I'm staying here, Sakura said stubbornly. Really? Syaoran gave a look that bore right through her. You can't even stand up and use your foot. I advise you to go home and put some ice on it and lie down before it gets worse and you can't walk. I'm fine, Sakura protested, struggling to balance on her left foot. Even the tiniest movement of her right foot etched ripping pain through her ligaments. She could feel it swell inside of her shoes. Liar. Seeing that Sakura was about to retort something, Malin interrupted. Oh, he's just worried, that's all. Right, Syaoran? Wait, did you hear something? Tomeo asked suddenly. It sounds like police sirens? Sakura frowned. Tomeda was relatively peaceful neighborhood. It's headed this way, Malin exclaimed. We better run away. We don't want to be found like this here, Syaoran stated. They hurried to the Seiju Junior High School back gate, while Sakura limped. The siren sounded near to the campus. Hurry! Here, lean against my arm. I'm fine. Yet Sakura stumbled as she tried to walk right into Syaoran's arms. Her face turned a flaming red. Here, we'll help you. Stop acting so stubborn. When Sakura hesitated, Syaoran took one arm while Tomeo balanced the other. At that moment, they saw a black shadow cast over them. Slowly, their eyes traced upwards. They saw the silhouette of a lean, young man with a lawn cloak swirling around him as he stood on the rooftop of the school. It was impossible to see his face, whether it was masked or not, but it seemed as if he was smiling. From his position, he jumped down to a lower building, just a few meters away from where they were standing. It seemed as if he were sizing the whole situation with one even gaze. His bright, keen eyes flickered at them for a moment, then focused on Sakura. Carefully, he scanned her up and down. By that time, the police sirens were nearly right below him. With the flick of his hands, he drew out a silver chain. Sakura and Syaoran were close enough to see that on the chain was a ring, a sapphire ring. It was the star sapphire ring, last robbed at Shin-san's mansion. As the voices of the police rang out through the school, the mysterious young man turned a backflip with a swish of his black cloak and disappeared. Catch him! Catch the Kaido magician! He disappeared again! The police forces were frantic. Fools! Not again! We almost had him this time. Register the backup forces. Call Station 5. Now! So that's the Kaido magician, Malin whispered in awe. I can see why they call him a magician. Sakura wondered why he had the star sapphire ring, though. Had she seen correctly? Sakura groaned as she leaned against her room doorway. She'd barely reached home using the fly card. Barely. Her ankle felt as if it were on fire. Her loose shirt clung to her because of sweat, and her skirt had wrinkles in it because she couldn't sit still. Her foot had continued swelling, and she couldn't take off her shoes now. Syaoran had said something about bandaging her foot and putting ice on it. Too bad. She didn't feel like moving. They hadn't been able to catch the force that night, but they had seen the Kaido magician, and for some strange reason he had that ring. Did she see it wrong? She couldn't observe it clearly, but she knew that it had to be the star sapphire ring. No other gem would have sparkled so brightly, with the gleaming star reflection in the middle. Wait, I feel something strange. She didn't bother to grope for the light switches. Release. Holding her staff in her hand, she limped to the second-floor hallway. Ugh. Her head felt feverish and unstable, and each step was like a biting knife slashing up her foot. A tall, gangly figure with a red, yellow, and blue tri-pointed hat was standing at the end of the hallway, juggling colorful round balls. The Joker grinned up at Sakura with its painted face and slowly walked towards her. "No, don't come near me! Leave me alone!" Without balance, Sakura stumbled back into the stairway as the Joker motioned nearer towards her. Sakura tripped and rolled off the top of the second-floor stairs. A little while later, she lay in a crumpled heap at the bottom of the staircase, clutching her right ankle with one hand and her necklace with the other. Deliriously, she groaned. Syaoran, before everything swirled around her unrecognizably into a twirl of red, yellow, and blue. "Sakura!" Syaoran bolted up from the living room couch. He was sweating hard, and he felt a jolt through his body. What, Sakura? What's wrong?" Melanie asked, yawning from another couch. They had been watching TV when they got back home after eating hot noodles, and apparently they dozed off. The TV was still on. 1 o'clock news, the notorious Kaido magician has been spotted again earlier this evening near to school campus grounds of Syaoran Junior High. Apparently this time he has stolen anything. We caution, keep all doors shut and be cautious. We advise it best to stay in groups rather than staying alone. Syaoran switched off the TV, then ran out of the apartment door, sword in his hand. "Wait! Where are you going?" Melanie chased after him. Why did we come to Sakura's house? She's probably sleeping right now. Melanie rubbed her arms. Early spring or not, it was cold in the nighttime, especially after midnight. Melanie peered into the house window. Could she see a dim outline of someone lying on the floor? "Stand back." "Wait, what are you doing?" Melanie cut off. Bracing himself, Syaoran had slammed into the kitchen window, and Melanie was greeted with a shatter of glass shards. She shielded her face with her arms. "Here, drink the herb tea. It's supposed to soothe you and relieve pain." Melanie held out a steaming mug. Blinking, Sakura hoisted herself against soft pillows. Sunlight poured through the flowery curtains. Draped over her clothes was an overlarge blue nightgown. Her clumsily bandaged right foot was propped up on several cushions. The bed with light blue-colored blankets was cozy and warm. Helping Sakura sit up on the bed, leaning against the pillows, Melanie asked, "What happened? You know how shocked Syaoran and I were? Good thing we got there early. Who knows what would have happened?" Stretching, Sakura shook her head. Why am I here?" Then flashes of the night came back to her. "Wait, I remember my sprained ankle was hurting. Then I felt a power in the hallway. I saw the Joker coming towards me, and I stepped back, sliding off the staircase. My whole body felt crushed. I felt dizzy and unconscious. I don't know why, but I think I called for Syaoran. Strange. Then I heard a crashing noise and the shattering of a glass window. Someone had leapt through it, and then everything went black." "Silly, that was Syaoran. He ran over to your house." "But how?" "He must have heard you call him." "I wonder how. Maybe mind-to-mind telepathy?" "Exactly how close are you two? He seems to always know what's happening to you. That's some major connection." Wryly, Melanie wondered how Sakura would feel if she had known what Melanie had seen that night. After leaping through the window, Syaoran ran over to where Sakura lay, unconscious by the staircase. When he saw the Joker, he had blasted out so much power that a hole was made in the kitchen wall. The Joker, as if scared, had disappeared. Apparently it was a force that only liked playing with nasty tricks, yet cowered from combating. Then Syaoran had carefully covered up Sakura with his jacket and carried her on his back all the way to the apartment. Melanie wished that Syaoran would handle her with such gentleness that he handled Sakura, as he lay her on the guest bed and looked after her foot. All night he had wiped sweat off of Sakura's brows and cast warding charms to ease the pain of her foot. And Sakura didn't even know about it. That exasperated Meilin more than anything else. Drink the tea. It's good for you. It has Syaoran's special healing herbs in it. Obediently, Sakura drank it. Then she made a face. Ugh, it tastes horrible, but since it's good for me... Wait, where's Syaoran-kun? He's sleeping in his room, probably. He stayed up the whole night looking after you. You had some nasty bruises from the fall. I'm sorry for causing so much trouble. Sakura looked down into the empty mug. Don't worry. I was sleeping through the night. Syaoran did all the work. Still, I'm sorry. Yet Sakura somehow felt relieved, safe, and sheltered to be with Meilin and Syaoran. Even if she didn't want to become a burden to others, she didn't know what would have happened if Syaoran hadn't come. Oh, I hear pots of boiling in the kitchen. Syaoran must be up. Meilin fastened a ribbon to each of her buns on the side of her head. Here's breakfast, Syaoran said as he entered the room with the tray. For me? Sakura squeaked, her green eyes round. Nodding, Syaoran helped lay the tray on her lap. Steaming porridge never looked so scrumptious before to Sakura. Her stomach rumbled as she devoured the food in a matter of minutes. Then she blushed to see that Syaoran and Meilin stared at her with awe. Sorry, I didn't have anything to eat for 2 days. Stop apologizing and not eating anything for 2 days is just plain stupid. However, Syaoran continued to refill the bowl until he was satisfied that Sakura had had enough. Looking up mistily, Sakura said, Thanks, I really appreciate all this. Turning red, Syaoran mumbled, It's all right. Well, Sakura tried to stand up after her breakfast. I better go home now. As she stood on her right foot, she collapsed again. Stupid! You can't go anywhere with that foot. I tried to heal it, but I haven't got to healing serious sprains yet in my studies, so I can just ease the pain. Stubbornly, Syaoran forced her back into the bed. Reluctantly, Sakura sighed in relief and laid back down. I think the best thing for you to do is just stay with us, Meilin proposed. There's plenty of room here. You can have this room, and there's no reason for you to stay home alone when you can stay with us. But, Sakura protested, anyway, Syaoran kind of messed up your house, so it will take some time to repair it. Meilin giggled, thinking about the scorched living room floor, shattered window, hole in the kitchen wall, broken stair. Whee! So that's how Sakura ended up staying at the Lees for the time being.